We have. All right, thanks a bunch, Bill. Still ahead here on the afternoon news wrap. Tonight, we got the college football national championship between Gainesville's own Deshaun Watson and Alabama once again. And while the game is theoretically considered an amateur sport in college athletics, the dollars behind the game of football are anything but amateur in college. We're going to talk to Thomas Smith, a finance professor at Emory in Atlanta, about the economic impact of the championship game that next year is coming to Atlanta. It's ahead on WDUN.
Undeniably informative and refreshingly entertaining. It's the afternoon news wrap with Russell Brown on North Georgia's News Talk, WDUN.
Hey, good to have you with us here on the afternoon news wrap right at 12 minutes after 6 o'clock here on this Monday. Glad to be getting you home on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN. I'm Russell Brown. Tonight at 8 o'clock, Gainesville's own Deshaun Watson and the Clemson Tigers will take on the Alabama Crimson Tide for the College Football National Championship down in Tampa, Florida, where I can almost guarantee you temperatures are not at 32 degrees like they are right now here. And although the sport's most coveted prize is on the line down there in Tampa, so are a lot of dollars. Thomas Smith is an associate professor in the practice of finance at the Goizueta Business School down at Emory University in Atlanta, and he joins us for more on the financial playing field of the multi-billion-dollar industry that is big-time college football and college athletics. Thomas, thank you so much for your time here today. It's great to have you on the show.
No, thank you very much, man. Appreciate it.
Well, I know there's a lot of money being made out there by a lot of different people when it comes to college football around the landscape, and I know a lot of them aren't players, and that's neither here nor there. We might talk about that here in a bit, but what kind of economic numbers are there behind college football and the national championship game here tonight?
Well, I think that Tampa is probably looking at, what's going to be the impact of having, a couple 100,000 people find their way to Raymond James Stadium and or around Raymond James Stadium and, watch the game or party or what have you. And so I think a lot of the numbers thrown out there are a couple $100 million for an event like this. I tend to play it a little bit on the safer side and say something in the neighborhood of $100 to maybe $150 million, the economic impact of an event.
Well, that's quite an impact for a city like Tampa that is a convention city anyway. People are going to Tampa a lot, whether it be for vacation or whatever else. And if you ask me, I think that having a national championship game in a vacation city like Tampa just brings in more people that say, you know what, we're going to go to the game and we're also going to get the beach involved with it. You talk about the city and the finances that come into the city. What do you mean by that? Is it hotel revenue? What exactly is it, and where are these dollars being spent?
That's exactly right. And so, a lot of people think that the money's going to be generated by the stadium itself, and that's pretty minuscule for the city of Tampa. I mean, what the stadium brings in is kind of a rounding error. But what they're hoping for is that people come in for the weekend or have a long weekend. They stay at hotels. They go out to restaurants. They go to bars. They grab an Uber or a taxi or whatever and, throw money around the city. And then that's what they're hoping, and I think what Tampa is also hoping, and every host city is hoping, is that this will somehow trickle into events occurring in latter years. So you come to the city and you say, wow, this is a great place. Maybe I'll come back here for a vacation, or maybe I'll come back here next time that there's a orthodontics convention, in town or something like that. And so, Tampa wants to highlight the fact that it's a great place to visit, and they're hoping that people will spend money today, but also spend money in the future.
Who's the bigger winner when it comes to not just the college football national championship, but any championship game where lots of money is being spent in a city and lots of people are coming? Is it more of the sport itself, or is it more of that host city? Who kind of comes out on top?
Well, I think the host city is hoping that they're coming out on top, but that doesn't always play out that way. Like you mentioned, for a city like Tampa that already has, a very brisk convention business, having one more event like this is not that much different than, a trade show, the SHOT Show or a big hardware convention. It gets more attention in terms of visibility, but, you're still having 100,000 people come to town, and for a convention, they might be in town for, 5 days, 7 days. For something like this, especially since we have two southern universities playing in this game, people might be driving in. They might have arrived, late last night. And so unfortunately, Tampa might not be getting the bounce that they would like because you've got these two Southern universities. So, people are hoping, the cities are hoping that these kind of events bring in lots of revenue.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you also get the fact that, Marriott they're not located in Tampa, other types of big places, TGI Fridays, they're not located in Tampa. And so a lot of the money is going to, split town regardless.
Again, we're talking to Thomas Smith. He's a Ph.D. and associate professor in the practice of finance at the Goizueta Business School down at Emory University in Atlanta, talking about the national championship game tonight. And we're not talking X's and O's, although we totally can. I'm a Clemson guy. I got the Tigers by a touchdown here, Thomas. But we're talking more about the dollars and cents behind big-time championship games and big sporting events like this. Comparatively, for the national championship of college football, which, by the way, is coming to Atlanta next year in 2018, being played at the new stadium down there in the ATL. What kind of other sports are comparable to college football when you talk about revenue? Is it the Super Bowl? Is it a World Series? What are some of the more revenue generating sports?
Yeah, so absolutely, the Super Bowl is a huge revenue generating sport. The World Series can be, but given the fact that you've got, a 5 or 6 or 7 game series, you tend to get sort of the impact is sort of stretched over a longer period of time, so you might not see the big bounce. Believe it or not, NASCAR is, a considerable economic engine,
Really?
Especially in the South and up through the Carolinas. And so, it's, you get a NASCAR event, and earlier I mentioned a couple 100,000 people. I think Raymond James, their stadium has a capacity of 60, 70,000.
Yeah.
And but for these NASCAR events, you've got stadiums of, you have 200,000 people. You have another 50,000 people who are occupying the center of these things, and partying for 3 days. And so. And believe it or not, Super Bowl and NASCAR seem to have a big economic impact. But everybody loves this. It's a Monday night. There's not anything else going on. And Tampa is thrilled to have the game. And Atlanta is thrilled to have the game next year to show off the new stadium,
mm-hmm.
right? What we don't want, and unfortunately it looks like this is becoming sort of an annual event, we don't want Alabama and Clemson playing in this game in Atlanta.
Right.
It's too close. We're just not going to get the kind of economic traffic. People will breeze into town, see the game, and then leave. In order to have some kind of economic impact, we want people from out of town converging in a city, spending a lot of time, spending a lot of money. And unfortunately for Tampa, I think that's not playing out the way that they'd like it to.
So maybe next year we start pulling for, the University of Washington and maybe Wisconsin to be down in Atlanta, right?
Yeah, right. No, somebody asked me earlier and said, what's your ultimate matchup for Atlanta next year? And I said, Oregon versus Syracuse. So that'd be great. Nice cold, time up in Syracuse, New York. People like, flying down, spending some time in the beautiful ATL. And so, those are the kind of things that we look for when we're looking at economic impact.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see this time next year what's happening in the city of Atlanta. Obviously, a city that knows how to host sporting events, or at least hopefully does after the 96 Olympic Games, and hosting the world here in the state of Georgia, also up here in Hall County as well. But, you got the College Football Hall of Fame down there in Atlanta now, a lot of different attractions that I think would draw people in. Now you had the Super Bowl in the mix maybe coming to Atlanta as well. Very curious to see what that means for the economic impact of North Georgia and the metro Atlanta area this time next year. Well, Thomas, before we let you go here, do you have a prediction on the game itself? What do you think, Clemson or Alabama?
Well, I tend to be an Emory Eagle fan. We're still undefeated, but I'm gonna go with Clemson. I think because of we don't have some homegrown talent in that game tonight.
Oh yeah,
and so. I don't know. I'm gonna go Clemson.
I like it. Hopefully, Deshaun Watson, right here from Gainesville, puts on the show. Thomas, thank you so much for your time here today. Great insight, very interesting angle on this football game here tonight. Appreciate it. Would love to have you back on any time.
Yeah, anytime you want, just give me a ring, brother.
Sounds good, buddy. Thomas Smith, again, an associate professor in the practice of finance at the Goizueta Business School down at Emory University in Atlanta. Very interesting to think about how the economy works around things like the national championship game down in Tampa tomorrow and what that means for Atlanta next year and maybe getting to host another Super Bowl. The dollars around it are just crazy. They call this an amateur sport, college football, but when you really look at the dollars and cents, it's frightening. More of the news wrap ahead.